Hey folks, welcome back to Stoic Quotes 365. Let me ask you something. Have you ever found yourself thinking about someone constantly, even though you're no longer in touch? Maybe it's an ex, a friend you've grown apart from, or even someone who made a brief but intense impact on your life. You're not reaching out to them. They're not reaching out to you. And yet, there they are, lingering in your mind, taking up space, and leaving you wondering what it all means. Sound familiar? This kind of mental tug-of-war can feel confusing and exhausting. You might ask yourself, why can't I stop thinking about them? Is it because I still care? Do they feel the same way? These questions can spiral, pulling you deeper into a cycle of reflection and uncertainty. But here's the truth. Folks, when someone occupies your thoughts like this, it's rarely just about them. It's about the emotions, experiences, or unresolved feelings they represent in your life. And understanding that is the key to finding peace. Now, let's be honest. Living with someone always on your mind, especially when there's no communication, can feel like an emotional weight you can't shake off. It's like carrying a suitcase you never meant to pack. And the worst part? The more you try to push the thoughts away, the stronger they seem to come back. But don't worry, you're not alone in this, and you're not powerless. The fact that they're on your mind doesn't mean you're weak or stuck. It means there's something deeper happening, and once you uncover what that is, you can reclaim control. This video is all about exploring the why behind this phenomenon. Why do some people linger in our minds long after they're gone from our lives? What does it say about them? Or more importantly, about us? And most crucially, how do we move forward when these thoughts feel overwhelming? In today's journey, we'll dive into 7 key insights that shed light on why this happens and what it truly means. First, we'll explore the emotional imprint they've left behind and why it's so hard to let go. Then, we'll unpack the role of silence and how it can amplify emotions instead of dulling them. You'll also learn to recognize what they represent in your life, whether it's unresolved feelings, unmet needs, or even your own aspirations. And trust me, folks, it doesn't stop there. We'll also tap into the transformative power of self-awareness and how it can help you gain clarity about these lingering thoughts. From there, we'll examine how silence feeds your imagination, often leading to idealization or misinterpretation of the past. Then, we'll tackle practical steps for reclaiming your mental space and finding peace within yourself. Finally, we'll end on a powerful note with the gift of letting go, a step that not only frees you but also opens the door to new possibilities. This isn't just about understanding your thoughts, it's about transforming the way you approach them. Together, we'll uncover the Stoic wisdom behind these moments, helping you regain balance and control in your emotional life. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." If your mind is consumed by someone else, it's time to reclaim that space and make it your own again. So stick with me, folks, because by the end of this video, you'll not only understand why they're always on your mind, but also learn how to find peace and clarity, even without communication. And trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. All right, let's get started. Number 1, the emotional imprint. Hey folks, let's talk about something that's at the root of why someone might stay in your mind. Even when there's no communication, the emotional imprint they've left behind. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to occupy your thoughts long after they've left your life? It's not random. It's because they've left a mark on your emotions, one that's deep enough to linger. Let's dive into what that really means and why it happens. Think of your mind like a canvas, and every meaningful connection in your life leaves a stroke of paint. Some are light and fleeting, while others are bold and permanent. The people who remain in your thoughts without any contact? They've painted something vivid and unforgettable. Maybe it was the way they made you feel in a specific moment. A time when you felt truly seen, loved, or even hurt. Emotions, especially strong ones, have a way of sticking with us, and that's why you can't seem to stop thinking about them. Here's where it gets tricky, folks. Emotional imprints don't always come from positive experiences. Sure, someone might stay in your mind because they made you feel incredible, but they can also linger because of unresolved pain or conflict. Maybe they hurt you in a way that you haven't fully processed, or maybe there's something you wish you'd said or done differently. These lingering feelings create an emotional loop, keeping them present in your thoughts, even when they're physically absent. Now, let's break this down further. Emotional imprints are powerful because they're tied to our most intense experiences. Our brains are wired to remember emotionally charged moments more vividly than neutral ones. That's why you might forget what you had for breakfast last week, but still remember a conversation with this person from years ago. It's not just about the memory, it's about how it made you feel. Let me ask you something. When this person pops into your mind, what do you feel? Is it joy, sadness, anger, or maybe a mix of all three? Identifying these emotions is the first step in understanding why they've left such a strong imprint. Often, it's not the person themselves we're stuck on. It's the feelings they represent. Maybe they made you feel safe in a way no one else has, or maybe they challenged you in ways that were uncomfortable but transformative. Whatever it is, those emotions are what keep them alive in your thoughts. Here's where Stoic philosophy can offer some insight. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The emotional imprint someone leaves is not something you can erase, but you do have control over how you respond to it. Instead of letting their memory pull you into a spiral of regret or longing, you can choose to view it as a lesson, a reflection of your capacity to feel deeply and grow from those experiences. Let me share a quick story. A friend of mine once told me about someone she couldn't stop thinking about, a mentor who had encouraged her during a tough time, but later drifted out of her life. For years, she found herself replaying their conversations, wondering what had gone wrong. But when she finally sat down to reflect, she realized it wasn't the person she missed. It was the sense of empowerment they had helped her discover. That realization allowed her to focus on cultivating that feeling in her own life, instead of waiting for someone else to bring it back. So, what can you do if you're dealing with a lingering emotional imprint? Start by acknowledging it. Don't fight the thoughts or judge yourself for having them. Simply notice them. Then, dig a little deeper. Ask yourself, what does this person represent for me? What emotions do they bring up? And what can I learn from them? Often, you'll find that the imprint is less about them and more about what they symbolize in your journey. Lastly, remember that emotional imprints are a part of being human. They show that you've connected deeply with others, and that's something to honor, not erase. But at the same time, don't let those imprints define you or hold you back. The canvas of your mind is yours to paint. And while some strokes will always remain, there's plenty of room for new colors and stories. If this resonates with you, write, "I honor my emotions," in the comments to affirm your commitment to understanding and embracing the emotional imprints in your life. And folks, if you're finding value in this journey, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join our growing community of people exploring the depths of relationships and self-awareness. We've got so much more to uncover, so stick around for the next insight. You won't want to miss it. Let's keep going. Number 2, the role of silence. Hey folks, let's take a moment to talk about something deceptively simple but incredibly powerful: Silence. When someone is always on your mind without any communication, silence often plays a much bigger role than we realize. It's not just the absence of words. It's a space where emotions, memories, and even our imagination come alive. Let's dive into why silence can have such a profound effect and what it really means. Think about it. Silence can feel like a blank canvas. When there's no communication, no texts, no calls, and no closure, your mind starts filling in the gaps. You replay old conversations, imagine what they might be thinking, or even create scenarios that may not exist. The longer the silence lasts, the more vivid these thoughts become. It's like your brain is trying to solve a puzzle with missing pieces, and in doing so, it gives their absence even more power. But here's the thing, folks. Silence doesn't just amplify their presence in your mind, it also amplifies your emotions. Without communication, you're left to interpret things on your own, and that's where uncertainty creeps in. You might find yourself asking, why haven't they reached out? Do they care? Am I overthinking this? These unanswered questions create a kind of mental noise, and ironically, the silence becomes deafening. Now, here's an interesting perspective. Silence can mean different things depending on the context. Sometimes it's intentional, a choice to create distance or set boundaries. Other times, it's unintentional, stemming from fear, uncertainty, or simply being busy. But regardless of why the silence exists, how you interpret it matters far more than the silence itself. It's easy to let it spiral into overthinking, but it can also be an opportunity for clarity and self-reflection. Let me ask you this. When was the last time you sat with silence and just observed how it made you feel? Did it make you anxious, nostalgic, or perhaps even peaceful? The way silence affects you often says more about your inner world than about the person you're thinking of. For example, if their silence makes you feel abandoned, it might be pointing to a deeper fear of rejection. On the other hand, if it brings a sense of calm, it might mean you've started to find closure within yourself, even without their input. Here's where Stoic philosophy offers a fresh perspective. Marcus Aurelius once said, "It is not events that disturb us, but our judgments about them." In the context of silence, it's not the lack of communication that holds power. It's the meaning we assign to it. If you see silence as rejection or indifference, it will weigh heavily on you. But if you view it as a chance to pause, reflect, and grow, it becomes a tool for empowerment rather than a source of pain. Let's shift gears for a moment. Silence can also create an illusion of permanence. Without new interactions or conversations, you're left with only your memories of them, and those memories can become frozen in time. You might idealize them, holding on to the best parts while forgetting the challenges or conflicts. Or you might focus entirely on the negative, letting unresolved hurt define your thoughts. Either way, silence creates a vacuum, and how you choose to fill that vacuum makes all the difference. So, how do you navigate the role of silence without letting it consume you? First, acknowledge it. Silence can feel uncomfortable, but it's a natural part of life and relationships. Instead of resisting it, try to understand what it's teaching you. What emotions does it bring up? What stories is your mind creating in the absence of communication? Recognizing these patterns can help you separate your feelings from the reality of the situation. Second, use silence as a tool for self-discovery. When you stop focusing on why they're not communicating and start focusing on your own needs, you reclaim the power that silence once held. Ask yourself, what do I need right now? How can I find peace within myself, regardless of whether they reach out? These questions shift the focus back to you, where it belongs. And finally, remember that silence isn't always a bad thing. Sometimes, It's exactly what you need to gain clarity and perspective. It's a chance to step back, assess the situation, and decide how you want to move forward. Instead of fearing silence, try to see it as a pause, a space to breathe, heal, and grow. If this resonates with you, write, "I embrace the silence" in the comments to affirm your commitment to finding peace within yourself, even in the quiet moments. And folks, if you're enjoying this journey of self-discovery, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join our incredible community. There's so much more to uncover in this video. And trust me, the next insight is one you won't want to miss. Let's keep going. Number 3. What they represent. Hey folks, let's take a moment to unpack something deeper. What does this person truly represent in your life? When someone occupies your mind, even without communication, it's often not just about who they are, it's about what they symbolize. Understanding this is a powerful step toward clarity, healing, and reclaiming your emotional space. So let's dive in and explore what might be keeping them front and center in your thoughts. Think about it for a second. Are you replaying memories of specific moments with them? Maybe it's not the person themselves, but the way they made you feel that's lingering. Perhaps they represented a time when you felt loved, seen, or understood in a way that's hard to find elsewhere. Or maybe, on the flip side, they remind you of unresolved pain, rejection, or something you've been trying to work through. Whatever it is, their presence in your mind often points to something much bigger than the individual. Here's an interesting perspective. Folks, sometimes, the people we can't stop thinking about are mirrors reflecting parts of ourselves. They might symbolize a version of you that you miss, whether it's the carefree person you were when you were with them, or the courage it took to leave something that wasn't serving you. In that way, they're less about who they are and more about who you were or who you're trying to become. Let me ask you this. When you think about them, do you feel nostalgia, longing, or maybe even regret? Identifying these emotions can give you valuable clues about what they represent. For example, if their memory brings up feelings of safety, it might mean you're craving stability in your life right now. If it stirs up regret, perhaps there's a lesson you've yet to fully embrace. These emotional signals aren't there to torment you. They're there to guide you toward what you need to heal or grow. Let me share a quick story. A friend of mine went through a breakup with someone who was incredibly supportive during a challenging time in her life. Even though the relationship ended on good terms, she couldn't stop thinking about him. But when she dug deeper, she realized it wasn't him she missed. It was the feeling of being supported. Once she recognized that, she was able to shift her focus toward building that support system within herself and her friendships. The emotional hold he had on her mind slowly began to fade. Here's where Stoic philosophy offers some powerful guidance. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Dwell on the beauty of life, watch the stars, and see yourself running with them." What this reminds us is that our thoughts have the power to shape how we experience the world. Instead of getting stuck on the memory of someone else, use it as an opportunity to focus on the beauty and growth it represents in your journey. Now, let's talk about the concept of unmet needs. Often, someone stays in our thoughts because they fulfilled or failed to fulfill a particular need. Maybe they gave you validation or a sense of purpose, or perhaps their absence highlighted a gap you hadn't noticed before. When you identify what those needs are, you take the first step toward meeting them in a healthier, more sustainable way through yourself, your passions, or other meaningful connections. Here's another layer to consider. They might represent closure you never received. Unfinished business has a way of keeping people alive in our minds. If this resonates with you, ask yourself, what would closure look like for me? It might be as simple as writing down your feelings in a letter you never send, or as complex as having an honest conversation with yourself about letting go. Either way, the act of addressing it can help release the mental hold they have on you. Finally, folks, it's important to remember that not everyone who lingers in your thoughts is meant to stay there forever. Sometimes they're just a chapter in your story, a chapter filled with lessons, growth, and meaning. By understanding what they represent, you gain the power to turn the page and focus on the next chapter, one where you take the lessons and leave the weight behind. So here's a challenge for you. Take a moment to reflect on this person and write down what they represent in your life. Is it love, loss, growth, or something else entirely? This exercise can bring clarity and help you move forward with purpose. If this resonates with you, write "I embrace the lesson" in the comments to affirm your commitment to understanding and growing from these experiences. And folks, if you're finding value in this journey, hit that subscribe button and join our incredible community of people exploring relationships and self-awareness. There's still more to uncover, so stick around for the next insight. It's one you won't want to miss. Let's keep going! Number 4, the power of self-awareness. Hey folks, let's take a moment to talk about one of the most transformative tools you have at your disposal: self-awareness. When someone is stuck in your mind, it's easy to fall into the trap of overthinking about them, what they're doing, how they feel, or why they're not reaching out. But the real question isn't about them, it's about you. Why are they occupying so much mental space? And what does that say about where you are right now in your life? Self-awareness is like a flashlight in a dark room. It helps you illuminate the hidden corners of your mind where emotions, thoughts, and habits live. When you shine that light on why someone is always in your thoughts, you start to see the patterns, triggers, and beliefs that are holding you in place. And folks, once you see those patterns, you gain the power to change them. Let me ask you this. When you think about this person, what's the first emotion that comes up? Is it longing, regret, anger, or maybe even hope? Whatever it is, that feeling holds a clue about what's really going on inside you. For example, if it's longing, it might mean you're missing something in your current life. Not necessarily them, but perhaps the joy, connection, or excitement they represented. If it's regret, it might be pointing to something unresolved within yourself, like an opportunity you feel you missed, or words you wish you'd said. These emotions aren't here to torment you. They're here to teach you. Here's a story to bring this to life. A friend of mine found herself constantly thinking about an old flame years after their breakup. At first, she thought it meant she still had feelings for him. But as she started journaling and reflecting, she realized it wasn't about him at all. It was about the confidence she felt when she was with him. He had seen her potential at a time when she doubted herself, and she had come to associate that feeling with him. Once she recognized that, she began working on rebuilding her confidence from within, instead of looking for it in someone else. And you know what? The mental hold he had on her started to fade. Self-awareness also helps you break free from autopilot thinking. Have you ever found yourself stuck in a loop of replaying the same conversations or imagining different outcomes with this person? That's your mind trying to make sense of the past or fill in the gaps of the unknown. While it's a natural response, it's also a cycle that keeps you stuck. By practicing self-awareness, you can catch yourself in those moments and ask, what am I hoping to achieve by replaying this? What do I actually need right now? These questions shift your focus from the past to the present, where your true power lies. Here's where Stoicism offers some guidance. Marcus Aurelius said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." Self-awareness is about taking control of those thoughts, not letting them control you. It's about recognizing when your mind is pulling you into a spiral and choosing to redirect your energy towards something that serves you. It doesn't mean suppressing your feelings or ignoring your thoughts. It means understanding them so you can move forward with intention. One powerful way to cultivate self-awareness is through mindfulness. This doesn't have to be complicated. It can be as simple as taking a few deep breaths and asking yourself, what am I feeling right now and why? Journaling is another great tool. Write down your thoughts without judgment and see what patterns emerge. You might be surprised at how much clarity comes from putting your feelings into words. Another key aspect of self-awareness is learning to differentiate between what's real and what's imagined. Silence and distance often lead us to create stories in our minds about what the other person is thinking or feeling. But folks, those are just stories. Self-awareness helps you recognize when your mind is creating narratives and reminds you to focus on what you know to be true. Finally, self-awareness is a practice, not a destination. It's about showing up for yourself every day and being willing to look inward, even when it's uncomfortable. The more you do this, the more empowered you become, not just in managing your thoughts about this person, but in every area of your life. If this resonates with you, write, "I choose self-awareness," in the comments to affirm your commitment to looking inward and finding clarity. And folks, if you're finding value in this conversation, hit that subscribe button and join our amazing community. There's so much more to uncover in this journey, and the next insight is one you won't want to miss. Let's keep going. Number 5, when silence feeds imagination. Hey folks, let's dive into something we've all experienced. How silence can fuel our imagination in ways we don't always expect. When there's no communication, no explanation, and no closure, our minds start filling in the blanks. It's like a storybook with missing chapters, and we can't help but try to write the narrative ourselves. But here's the thing. What our imagination creates isn't always based on reality. It's often influenced by our emotions, fears, and hopes. Let's explore why this happens and how we can take control of it. Think about the last time you were left in silence by someone you cared about. What did your mind do? Chances are you started replaying old conversations, imagining what they might be thinking, or creating scenarios about why they haven't reached out. This process feels natural, but it's a double-edged sword. On one hand, it helps us make sense of the unknown. On the other, it often leads to overthinking, assumptions, and emotional exhaustion. Here's where silence becomes powerful. It creates a void. And folks, the mind abhors a vacuum. When there's no new information coming in, your imagination takes over, filling the silence with stories, some hopeful, some painful, and some downright dramatic. You might find yourself idealizing the person, remembering only their best qualities while forgetting the conflicts or challenges that existed. Or you might go the opposite route, focusing on everything they did wrong and imagining the worst possible reasons for their silence. Either way, the narrative you create often says more about you than it does about them. Let me ask you this. When silence feeds your imagination, how does it make you feel? Do you find yourself spiraling into anxiety, or does it give you a strange sense of comfort? Both reactions are common, and they reveal a lot about where you are emotionally. If silence makes you anxious, it might be highlighting your need for clarity or closure. If it feels oddly comforting, perhaps it's because the stories you create allow you to hold on to hope or avoid facing reality. Now, here's a perspective rooted in Stoicism that can help. Epictetus said, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views they take of them." The silence itself isn't what causes the emotional turmoil, it's how we interpret it. When we let our imagination run wild, We give the silence power over us. But when we step back and recognize that these stories are just that, stories, we begin to regain control. Let me share a quick example. A friend of mine went through a situation where someone she deeply cared about suddenly stopped communicating. In the silence, her mind filled with possibilities. At first, she convinced herself they were too busy to reach out. Then she started wondering if she had done something wrong. Eventually, she created an entire narrative about how they must have moved on and forgotten about her. But when she finally spoke to them months later, the reality was much simpler. They had been dealing with their own personal struggles and hadn't known how to communicate. All the scenarios she had imagined turned out to be completely untrue, but they had taken a significant emotional toll in the meantime. So, how do we navigate silence without letting it feed our imagination in unhealthy ways? First, recognize when your mind is creating stories. Ask yourself, is this based on fact, or am I filling in the gaps? This simple question can interrupt the spiral and bring you back to the present. Second, remind yourself that silence often has more to do with the other person than it does with you. Their lack of communication doesn't define your worth. It reflects their own circumstances or choices. Another helpful strategy is to redirect your focus. Instead of spending energy imagining what they're thinking or doing, invest that energy into something that brings you clarity or joy. Write in a journal, talk to a friend, or engage in an activity that grounds you in the present. Remember, the stories you create in the silence aren't always true, but the actions you take in the present are. Finally, folks, embrace the idea that silence can also be a gift. It gives you the space to reflect, to grow, and to decide what you want moving forward. Instead of fearing the void, use it as an opportunity to connect with yourself and your needs. If this resonates with you, write "I choose clarity" in the comments to affirm your commitment to breaking free from overthinking. And hey, if you're finding value in this conversation, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join our amazing community. There's still so much more to uncover, and the next insight might just be what you need to hear. Let's keep going. Number 6, reclaiming mental space. Hey folks, let's talk about reclaiming your mental space, a crucial step in taking back control of your thoughts and emotions. When someone occupies your mind for too long, it's like they're living rent-free in your head. And let's be real, that space is far too valuable to be given away like that. Reclaiming it isn't just about letting go of them, it's about making room for yourself. Think of your mind as a garden. Every thought you nurture is a seed, and it grows into something meaningful or something that consumes your energy. When you constantly dwell on someone who's no longer in your life, it's like letting weeds take over. The process of reclaiming mental space is about pulling out those weeds, not out of bitterness, but because your garden deserves to thrive. Let me ask you this. How often do you catch yourself replaying conversations, imagining different outcomes, or wondering what they're thinking? If it feels like too much, you're not alone. These cycles are common, but they can be exhausting. And here's the hard truth. No amount of overthinking will change the past or make them reappear. It only drains your energy, leaving less for the things that actually matter. The first step to reclaiming mental space is recognizing the patterns that keep you stuck. Pay attention to when your mind wanders back to them. Is it during quiet moments? When you're stressed? Understanding these triggers can help you regain control. When the thoughts come up, pause and ask yourself, does this serve me right now? This simple question can break the cycle and remind you to focus on the present. Mindfulness is a powerful tool for this. It's not about pushing away thoughts. It's about observing them without judgment. Imagine your thoughts as clouds passing in the sky. They're there, but they don't have to stay. When a memory or emotion tied to this person arises, notice it, acknowledge it, and let it drift by. It's a skill that takes practice, but over time, it becomes second nature. Another way to reclaim mental space is to fill it with things that uplift and fulfill you. Dive into a creative project, pick up a new hobby, or reconnect with people who bring positivity into your life. When your mind is engaged in activities that bring you joy, there's simply less room for unhelpful thoughts to linger. Plus, you remind yourself of all the things that make your life rich and meaningful. And let's not forget about forgiveness. Not for their sake, but for yours. Forgiveness isn't about excusing their behavior or pretending nothing happened. It's about releasing the emotional weight they've left behind. By letting go of anger, regret, or longing, you free yourself to focus on your own growth and happiness. As hard as it might be, this act of release is one of the most liberating things you can do. Here's a quick story for you. A friend of mine was stuck in a loop of replaying arguments with someone from her past. She'd go over every detail, wondering what she could have done differently. One day, she realized how much energy this was costing her. She started journaling, practicing mindfulness, and consciously redirecting her thoughts to the present. Over time, she reclaimed that mental space, turning it into a place of peace and clarity. She describes it now as her sanctuary, a space where she's free from the influence of others' actions. Reclaiming your mental space isn't just about forgetting someone. It's about choosing yourself. It's about deciding that your thoughts, your energy, and your peace are yours to direct, not theirs to control. And folks, when you make that choice, you unlock a sense of freedom that's truly transformative. If this resonates with you, write "I choose my peace" in the comments to affirm your commitment to reclaiming your mental space. And hey, if you're finding value in this video, hit that subscribe button and join our incredible community. There's one last powerful insight coming up, so stick around. You won't want to miss it. Let's keep going. Number 7. The gift of letting go. Hey folks, let's wrap this up with one of the most liberating lessons of all, the gift of letting go. It's not always easy. Holding on often feels safer, more familiar. But here's the truth. Letting go isn't about giving up or losing. It's about making space for freedom, peace, and the possibility of something new. It's a gift you give to yourself. When you hold on to someone who's no longer present in your life, you're clinging to a version of the past that no longer exists. You might be holding on to what they represented, the hopes you had, or even the idea of what could have been. But folks, here's the thing. Holding on doesn't change the past, and it doesn't bring them back. What it does is keep you tethered to something that's preventing you from moving forward. Letting go starts with a decision. It's not about forgetting or erasing the past. It's about choosing not to let it define you. It's about saying, "I honor what was, but I'm ready to embrace what's ahead." This shift in perspective can be life-changing. Instead of seeing letting go as a loss, you begin to see it as a gain, a chance to reclaim your energy, your focus, and your future. Here's where Stoic wisdom shines. Epictetus said, "Some things are up to us, and some things are not." Letting go is about recognizing what's beyond your control and choosing to focus on what is. You can't control their actions, their choices, or their silence, but you can control your response, and in that choice lies your power. Letting go doesn't mean there wasn't love, meaning, or lessons. It means you're freeing yourself, to live fully in the present. And folks, that's the greatest gift of all. Hey folks, thank you for spending your time with me today. I hope this video gave you some clarity and tools to understand why someone might stay in your thoughts, and most importantly, how you can take back your peace. Remember, your mind and heart are valuable, and choosing to reclaim them is one of the greatest acts of self-love. If this video resonated with you, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to Stoic Relationships, and share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your journey. Take care, folks, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, stay strong and keep choosing yourself.